each of these leaders posed a simple question. How can we as a nation, not just the government, but businesses and community groups and concerned citizens, how can we all come together to help fathers meet their responsibilities to our families and communities?
What's up, y'all? Hanging out with, the prince to the throne, my son, Clayton.
No, we couldn't. That's the rhythm.
Sorry.
Hi, my name is Clay Roberts. I recently wrote a book entitled Super Dad. And while writing that book, the idea for this film was created. It got me to thinking. What made me push hard to be a great father? Then that made me think about the generations before me and the perceived failure of men in my generation. So what you are about to witness is that vision come to life. The purpose of this film is to shed light on what men go through as fathers, with the intent to provide information that will hopefully bridge the gap of fatherlessness in future generations. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the film.
Fathers are our first teachers and coaches.
Desire always wonders why I open this car door for her. Sometimes she try to beats me to it without me letting me do it, and I always stop her. She always got this crazy look on her face, right?
They're our mentors, our role models.
DeMarco Miles, 39.
My name is Curtis Myers. I'm married. I've been married for 22 years.
I'm Yahya Guamna, 34 years old.
My name is Victor Herrera.
My name is Raymond McBride Jr.
Hello, my name is James Jones.
My name is Dominic Davis. I'm 35 years old.
My name is Osai Johnson. I'm 38 years old.
My name is Terrence Jones. I am 43 years old.
Being a father to me is everything. It's my why. Not having my father converted me into the father that I am. So being a father to me is my way of life.
Fatherhood has just been everything. I didn't know how much one could give themselves to someone until she came about.
Being a father, it means a lot to me. It means, you're a provider, you're a protector, you're nurturing, you're loving. I never did have a lot of money. And I would tell my children, I don't have money, but I got a lot of love I can give to you as a father. And that's what a father means to me. I feel like I want my children to be able to come to me as a father and ask me or talk to me about anything. I don't care what it is. Sometimes I may not want to hear it as a father, but I want them to be able to come to me because I'm going to give them the real deal and the real response out of love, not because I have an ulterior motive.
85% of youths in prison come from fatherless homes. %60 of youth suicides are from fatherless homes.
Growing up, my dad was my best friend. So when I got 11, my mom split. And you kind of say he was a deadbeat. There's a lot that goes into that, but he just was like MIA. Like, he wasn't around. He either called the day before or the day after my birthday.
My relationship with my father wasn't really there. I can really count pretty much on one hand how many times I've actually seen and talked, had a full-fledged conversation with him throughout my 43 years of life. He passed away in May. Didn't really have a full relationship with him.
I had a great father. Not only did I have a father, I had a man in my life, which I think is very important to have as a kid growing up. You know, some people have men in their lives that teach them how to be men. Some people have fathers in their lives that, you know, might not be the best fathers, but it teaches you how not to be a father. But for me, I had a great experience because I had a man and a father in my life that showed me and guided me to be a man.
He wasn't hands-on. This is the difference between me and my dad. He wasn't hands-on at all. I know he loved me. I know he had a lot of love for me, but he came to games when he could because of 2 jobs. He just made sure the house was there. I come home, Pops, you know, hey son, but he at work eating, going to sleep pretty much.
I haven't seen my father maybe close to 20 years. I reached out to him for advice, for guidance, maybe to build a connection again. And the man hadn't changed. He wrote me back, still blaming me for things that he did when I was a child. And at that moment, I knew there was no relationship left to fix, so I cut him off.
Single-parent families are twice as common in America today as they were 20 years ago. But for the majority of white children, family still means a mother and a father. This is not true for most black children. For them, things are getting worse.
It's impacted me to this from the standpoint of being guarded. You know, as a man in general, especially a black man, we taught to, you got to be tough. You don't have nobody to talk to. So I go to my sons and say, you know, come to your dad because I'm here physically, right? We don't know what tomorrow's gonna bring. Tomorrow's not promised. But I want my sons to be able to come to me because I couldn't go to mine.
I mean, if you don't know any other way, it's hard to say. Now, knowing that I have friends that have grown up without their father and hearing their struggle, it seemed like they had to grow up faster than I did. You know, I felt like the world hit them a little bit differently. I was sheltered. You know, went to a Catholic school. You know, I was told by my parents that, man, you go to a public school, you can get beat up, or, you know, things of that nature. Like, just completely just unaware of what was outside of me.
Where's your father?
Locked up.
Locked up where?
Green Street.
What for?
Fighting, violence, stuff like that.
You know, just kind of like I just said, my father and the relationship that we had, I think a lot of it was driven from his relationship with his father, because he never really had a great relationship with his father. He always tried to please please his dad. And so I, for me, it was not a situation of having to try to please him, but a situation of thinking that I wanted him to love me.
My son asked me the other day, how is it that you know how to fix a car? How did you learn? And the answer is because me and my brother, we used to go to junkyards and we get parts for the vehicle. We didn't have money to go to the auto store. So we would get used parts, and that's how we learned how to take a car apart, how to put it back together. He asked me how I learned how to drive. So I grabbed the vehicle one day. All the simple things that a father could provide, all the knowledge wasn't there. And the more complex things, how to love, how to care, how to guide, how to teach. I didn't have those.
Job as being a father.
So, the impact is heavy. The father in the house is always heavy. I tell men this every day. If you can stick around for the well-being of that child. Now, I'm not saying stay around in your relationship for the child. I'm saying stick around for your child. It's basically about the impact for my dad.
I had my first child, I was 25, which I got away, because a lot of my friends were having them early. They were having them like 15, 16.
I was 29 years old. I was 29 going on 30 when I had my daughter. And it was probably, if not the biggest wake-up call I've ever had. It just completely changed my mindset, softened my heart, softened my head a little bit more too, and just gave me the ability to pick up some skills that were always there, but I never really had a chance to dive into because I wasn't thinking about that at the time.
I was 18 when I had my first child, my oldest son. And it was a difficult experience for me because I was so young. I literally had my son a week before I graduated high school. So it was hard because it created issues between me and my mom.
Being 35 when I had my first child, and me and my wife struggling to have kids for a while. We're going through IVF, lots of money there, lots of, long nights and her crying and, trying to get through those moments, never thinking that this moment would ever happen. So that experience having that kid, it totally changed me, man, forever.
I put it like this. I was 25, and then after I turned 25, they started popping out like popcorn.
I was 20 years old when I had my first child. I had a relationship that was a little, it was a young relationship. When my daughter was born, I was actually working. I used to work third shift, and I got a phone call from my mother saying that we had to go to the hospital because my daughter had been born. For me, it was something I was very nervous. But when I got to the hospital and I held her in my arms, and she looked up at me and opened her eyes, it was like, it's go time. This is the most important thing I can do right now. I got to take care of her. And so that's what I tried to do.
My 9-year-old daughter, no, of course, because I'm married, so I don't have to deal with that. But my son, yes, it very much did impact it. Mainly because we weren't together, and I think that was the bulk of it.
Anybody ever told you what it is like to be a father?
I like watching other older, had
What'd you learn
kids.
from them? How did you?
I learned that they take a lot of patience. Take a lot of patience.
You have a lot of patience.
Friend of the court, how do I feel about the treatment they gave me as a father pursuing child support?
Ooh, that's a loaded question. All right.
So during this time, it was sometime in the early 90s, maybe middle 90s, that this was going on. And I have a distinct memory of filing for child support.
Child support has never been consistent because of the income that both their mother and I have. It's pretty equal, so we have never had child support in place.
The crazy thing about it is the amount of money that it was a very small amount of money.
I see my daughter maybe twice a year. My custody agreement is 50-50. 50% legal, 50% physical. So there should be equal shared time. I see my son every day now because he lives with me. But I don't see my daughter as often.
Definitely believe I was treated unfairly. I think it was an unequal way that they treated me as a man because I had custody of a young girl.
They call it the friend of the court, but they wasn't no friend of mine. The system was, I thought the system was wrong. Like I said, I never ran. And there's a couple of times the system even told me, well, bird in the hand beats two in the bush and we got you. And I said, but I never ran, so do me some justice, I mean, hey, I never ran from child support. A lot of my friends even told me, especially when I started making good money, man, I would quit if I was you.
But I remember, when all this, transpired, going down and saying, hey, I'm not receiving, I've been ordered, I have court order for child support, I'm not being paid, where's the money going? I was told that, well, the mom is saying that she's filing for custody. She wants to take you back to court for custody, so we're not going to turn around and pay you out the money that you've been court ordered while that is pending. So for my response was, I don't have any court case, and until that there's a court case, where's the money going? Money is not for me, it's for my daughter. And the lady in the window said, well, if you're such a great father, why do you need her money?
Yes. So again, COVID baby, my daughter was. I got sent home alone because my wife got sick. She had a fever. So, I barely got the car seat in the car, and they're like, all right, man, you're good to go. I'm like, oh, you mean this staff of like 6 nurses that's been helping me for the last 5 days is not coming home with me? My parents live in Iowa. My mother-in-law is with my wife because she is very sick. So I'm home alone with the baby for a week. I slept 4 hours in 5 days.
I'll say it's 50-50. My parents live in Detroit, so that's 2 hours away. And my wife's family, they all live out here. Our family structures are a little bit different. I come from a family to where I would say that, my mom would take the kids anytime I would ask her to if I lived a little closer.
That's a great question. Yes, I did have a support system as a father. My wife, family, I'm very tight with, I'm very close with. They supported me on top of having great support from my family, my sisters, my mom, my grandparents don't live here, but they still, they was a call away.
And her family's a little bit more, it's a time, place, limit on when they do stuff, which, each family's different. And, it's hard when you're away from home because I gave up everything that I was doing because me and my wife weren't living together when she got pregnant. So I dropped everything that I was doing and moved back to Grand Rapids and literally started from scratch all over.
Some of my aunts, some of my uncles was involved to an extent, much as they could be. I had a great support system, even some of my friends at the time. I had some close friends that was involved with my kids, That all helped. Without that, it's tough because you got to make all our decisions on your own. You have nobody to bounce off of on life experiences with kids. I had older uncles that had kids that was young. I had uncles and cousins that had kids at early ages. All that stuff mattered. And I did have my first child, like I said, at 23. So I wasn't too young, but I still was a young man.
So, the support system, not so much, but, I had the phone calls, even at the age of 29 and, trying to pay for stuff, I still had, my dad dropping me off cash every now and then just to make sure I was good. Even though I didn't ask for it, he was there. So yes and no.
We're here to promote an awareness of fathers' rights in this country, or the lack of fathers' rights, I should say. The divorce industry and the courts, all they look at a father is a paycheck. A lot of fathers don't even get their children on Father's Day.
A support system, I would say no. And I would say that Clayton, what are you doing here is a great thing, man. As men, we have a support system as far as being a man, but not a support system as being a father and fatherhood. So, a woman builds that early, and we don't have that. So having this, what you building here I love it.
Oh yeah, I definitely did. Like I said, my uncle James Jones played a huge part in me being a father. My whole Jones side of my family, because I just know we're close knit. My grandfather, late Reverend Charlie Jones, he was the epitome of a great father. I mean, he fathered so many just kids on the streets, kids at the church, his kids, grandkids, great-grands. He was just that guy. So he was a great example for me to kind of watch. And he also poured into me when I had my son.
I have a support system. I say early on, to this day, my son's godfather, Denisha, is very supportive of them. But I had some in-law help early with my 16-year-old, but it wasn't much family there. So it was the learning curve, being a father don't come with a manual. So you only got what you received as a youngster and what you given.
What do I enjoy? Well, all of my kids are grown now. And I have grandchildren now. And what I really enjoyed about it was to watch them and see them do things that you probably didn't teach them, but instinctively, it came from you.
Everything, watching my kids grow, watching my kids develop, learn more things, show me sides of me that, they got from me, and seeing sides of their mom that they got from their mom. But, the biggest thing is just seeing them interact with the world.
It's hard to explain until you become a parent. You just see all these little things, when they start pulling themselves up on the couch. It's like the greatest thing in the world. Or even going back further than that, when they start laughing over the stupid stuff that you do, and then you're doing the dumb baby talk that you've seen on TV and movies. Like, I'm never doing that.
That's the biggest way becoming a father changed me was having something that looked like you. Cause like I say, my boy came first. And my daughter actually looked like me more than my boy, but he came first. Every man want a boy. Play sports, do what he did, kind of emulate what you did in life, and we always say be better. So when it changed me a lot, cause when I was younger, I wasn't wild, but I just did what I wanted like most kids do.
It changed me 2 times. The first time having a son, I had to grow up fast. Like I wasn't just me anymore. I had someone else to take care of. So when I had my oldest son, everything that I did, it affected him. So a lot of times, I had relationships and I didn't have my own place or have my own car, so I was living with women, dealing with women, and then when I do something stupid, I get put out, and then my son get put out.
When he came, I said I had to tighten up, I had to get more responsible, I had to work harder. So and once I did that and installed myself in that, I just kept going. I never really looked back. I never slowed down or stopped. Now, I do want to slow down now because I'm older. I'm 43 years old. My son's getting older. He's about to be 19, and my daughter about to be 17 coming up. So they're getting older, and, it's not easy, but it's very enjoyable.
When I see my kids achieve something that they really wanted.
And I hear some of you talking to your sons, to your daughters. That's the difference. You see, your presence in their lives gives them validation. They ain't got to find it in the streets.
That's the stuff I love the most about being a father. I get to see them develop. And just to know that some of what they're doing and some of the way some of it, not all of it, some of the way that they get to that mentality is a direct result of what me and their mom have put into them.
I'm actually still going through it. A few years back, me and my son, he was living with us, and I'm being fully transparent here. But he was living with us, and around Thanksgiving, around this time, about 4 years ago. And his mother had just returned. She kind of returned back into his life. And, of course, he's a son, so he loves his mother. And I never, ever, ever want to take that away from him. But it was always, when she returned, I would always tell him, like, hey, you want to go see your mom? Because he's living in Detroit. And she was living in Atlanta. So, yeah, you want to go see your mom? No, I'm good. You want to go see your mom? I'll pay for the ticket. No, I'm good. You want to go see your mom? No.
I will go back to the birth. So my daughter was born and we had a midwife that was supposed to come over, and she was late, so I actually had to give birth to my daughter.
So fast forward to this time 4 years ago, finally he went to go see his mother. I guess she paid for the ticket, and I'm like, cool, you know, when is the flight? When is the returning flight? I don't know. So it became an issue. I don't know. I'm coming back. And he just kept saying, I'm coming back.
And that was literally the hardest thing I ever had to do. I had my wife sitting there giving birth, giving me instructions. And, you know, I'm looking at the clock, looking at the time on the phone, like, when is these people coming?
Fast forward, he didn't come back. He never showed me his return flight. And we got into a heated argument over the phone.
So I delivered the baby, and it was one of the hardest moments, but one of the most, you know, it was one of the most hardest moments, but one of the most precious moments ever in my life. So one of the most hardest moments and precious moments at the same time. I would never forget that.
And we just had like a weird relationship since then. You know, I still love him to death. I hope he still loves me. We talk here and there, but that's still an ongoing situation.
I think I've never felt unappreciated, like, I mean, by my wife or anything, but I think outside, like worldly, I feel like we get a bad rap as fathers in general, especially black fathers.
All the time, because they're kids. I'm pretty sure my mom and dad feel unappreciated with me at times in life, because we want our kids to walk a fine line. It's so perfect, and it's just not perfect.
My wife has definitely come about to, like, you know, you're doing a good job. But I think just wholly, as a society, fathers don't get credit.
They have sex. Some of them do drugs. Some of them drink alcohol. Some of them steal. Some of them steal a car. You got to just constantly talk to your kids. Everybody's kids are different. And yes, them kids are rough, you know, but you can't give up on them. That's the key.
Well, that's a good question. Yeah, because I think that's because of our, not our nature, but the environment.
Tonight's topic is the fatherless epidemic that we are facing across this country and the problems it creates for families and children growing up without fathers.
It took 58 years after Mother's Day became a national holiday for Father's Day to get the same treatment. Listen, I get it, of course.
Well, the most reliable predictor of crime in America is father absence. So why don't we start re-engaging children in great relationships with their fathers, and that will help reduce crime.
That's a tricky question, especially, from a black male's perspective. In this day and age, we have a different view of a father. Whereas, when I was growing up, my dad made some basketball games, he made some football games, but he ran his own business. So there was a lot of things that he couldn't be around for that my mom was around for. And I think with a lot of our fathers, if they were in our life when we were growing up, they probably worked a job.
I think that question in itself is universal. It's difficult to answer or to just put that into a silo. That would mean you're underappreciated as a human being, as a person, as an individual. So have I ever felt underappreciated as a father? Yes, we all have.
If the wife hates you and the mom hates you and then the kids hate you, it's hard to keep making that effort when they don't want you there.
It's not a moment to look and be mad or be upset or say, hey, you don't appreciate the things I do for you. You don't care what I do for you. It's not for that. Take it as a moment to grow. Take it as a moment to develop. Take it as a moment to either realize that they are lacking something that you are not teaching them, or they haven't learned, or they don't understand.
Once you realize being a father, a full-time father that's there for your kids and having the emotional capacity, the mental capacity, to deal with these day-to-day things. You know, fathers before us that I would say essentially didn't have those same abilities, because it was almost like, be tough. And because we're able to be a little bit more compassionate and, you know, have a little bit more patience, you know, again, it's a normal, and it definitely doesn't get as much respect as it should.
All right, and we just take that role on, but you know, we're in the 21st century. Like, we all can do those things, you know? And so on top of doing my fatherhood duties, you're doing your husband duty. You're mowing the lawn, you're taking the trash out, you're compacting the recycling, even though you don't buy nothing, you know, things like that. They don't care about any of that, you know, extra stuff.
If you feel underappreciated as a father from your kids, and this is just from your kids, take a moment to ask yourself why they behave that way, or what led to that action.
But that's just on top of what you do as a father. But it's your job. You know, that I wouldn't have it any other way. I like the responsibilities. Doesn't mean that I got all the energy. I'm never not tired, or some days I'm like, put her in the garage. Like, I need a timeout from the baby. It's not perfect. Never will be perfect. But I think at the end of the day, it's the most rewarding thing possible.
What do they not know? What do they not feel? What can you do to help them? If you feel underappreciated from another adult, as a father, cut them out.
Fathers are essential. Everything you read proves it, and yet we live in a world that denies the obvious.
Did you know that 70% of African American children grow up in a single parent home? 70%.
And partly because of the general rule that welfare is cut off if there is a man in the house, fathers are often driven away so that mother and children can eat.
You said something that intrigued me. So as men and as fathers today,
Yep.
do you feel like we're overcompensating for the generations before us?
For the fathers today, do I think we're overcompensating?
For one thing, some of the people that were absent, some that had dads, you know, I'll put it like it was, sometimes it was circumstances. You know, a lot of dads left to go find a job or work. And my era, you know, it was a lot of them, I'll say, they wanted to provide, but some of them just couldn't financially provide, but they wanted to be in their children's lives, but the system kind of jacked them up.
The American legal system is very hard on those attempting to go through the child support process. In fact, that time can take from 3 to 6 months, and that's only if both parents are cooperating.
I don't think we're overcompensating. I think we've just tapped into a different level of understanding for our children, because society has essentially allowed us to be home more if we do things the right way. And I say do things the right way because, you know, I work remote for my full-time job. So I get to pick up my kids from school every day. I get to drop them off every day. You know, my daughter's in Girl Scouts. I drop her off to the Girl Scout meetings. My son wanted to pick up skateboarding. On my lunch breaks during the summer, we would go outside and skateboard. So it was just like, there was things that I'm available for.
My dad didn't show up because he had to work. I didn't understand it, but I kept the hope alive by keep watching for him, you know. Maybe one day he will show up. Maybe he might get off of work or whatever, you know. So I could say circumstances, and that was one of the circumstances I believe was going on with some of my friends with the absent dad, that they was just trying to keep hope alive.
Speaking from experience, be there. Do things. Take trips.
Never give up on them kids.
Take all the advice from all those before you, okay? I would not have made it through fatherhood without just listening to my friends who've been through it before, because they've all seen it.
The mama's gonna make it hard. Sometimes the grandma's gonna make it hard. Sometimes the brothers are gonna make it hard. Society gonna make it hard. People gonna make it hard. The world, social media gonna make it hard. Just don't give up on them. Keep going, keep fighting with them. Because don't never forget, you're gonna make a mistake just like they're gonna make mistakes. You don't want nobody giving up on you.
I think the best advice I could give you is to slow down.
You're always going to be learning. So there aren't really too many mistakes you can make. It's just everything's a learning opportunity. Be patient with yourself and be patient with the people around you.
The main thing is just like to love your kids, like become selfless. Everything is about your kid. You can't focus on yourself. You can't be selfish. Sometimes you have to, even for the other parent, you have to be selfless for them too, because they could be selfish. So everything you have to do is like for your kid to, to nurture them, to cater to them, to provide for them. So you just always want to just make sure your kid is your priority.
Coming together and have other people to talk to, other men to talk to about being a father and how to lead and how to guide your kids is, you can't put it into words how good that is and how important that is.
And the biggest thing is, you can't be a good and fully present father without having yourself being fully present. And I mean that in an emotional sense.
You got to love them and be patient. And like I said, in this world today, it's so much that's going on in this world that makes it really tough.
Take in as much as you can, every ounce of opportunity you get as a new father to be present. There's a saying that I heard someone say recently: be where your feet are. To be present where you can be with your child, to be as much a part of their lives so that you're the influence.
Never stop trying. Never stop. Never feel like you're not doing good enough. If you do happen to feel that way, push. Just keep going. Even when they get grown, when they get older, when they get 22, 25, whatever the case may be, always contact them. Let them know, hey, tell them constantly. I'm making my business to tell my daughter every time I talk to her, whether I'm scolding her, whether we're laughing, joking, I tell her, hey, I love you. Let them know that there's no, especially when they're younger, there's nobody that's going to do more for you than your parents are, than your dad, especially if you have a little girl. Hey, nobody's going to do more for you than your father is. That way they'll grow up and know that, hey, that's my superhero.
So I'm gonna read some statistics off to you guys first, and then I want to hear how they make you feel. A girl growing up without a present dad is 7 times more likely to become pregnant as a teen. 85% of youths in prison come from fatherless homes. 71% of high school dropouts come from fatherless homes. 60% of youth suicides are from fatherless homes. Nearly 25 million children live without their biological father, and men who grow up without absent fathers are more likely to become an absent father themselves. And studies have also found that women who grow up without absent fathers are more likely to have children with absent fathers. I'm gonna leave that open to whoever wants to speak first, and just, again, tell me how that makes you feel.
I grew up in a home like that, but I always had, honestly, somebody like my uncle around. So he's not my father, but a figure. You know what I mean? So it's always somebody we can latch on to try to change that narrative. Because in this day and age, even back then, it's like, we had the chance to figure out what we wanted to do with anything. You had the chance to figure out if you wanted to go sell dope. You had the chance to figure out if you wanted to skip school. I got the chance to figure out if I wanted to do right. So for me, the stats, it depends on who they're testing. You know what I'm saying? So like for me, I just kind of view it differently.
The statistics is breaking down the numbers on really the negative part of the whole situation, really. But in a positive, like, we really got choices. I'm speaking of today, not growing up, like today. We got choices. I mean, social media out here and stuff, and you got a lot of choices. A lot of other things to follow. So you got one male, like, okay, for me, like I was telling yesterday, I had my dad in the house. He was there like 24/7 besides work. So I had it, but at the same time, I had a lot of other choices I could have made too. So it's kind of like the kids making bad choices today. And they got male figures around them, uncles, dads, teachers, coaches, and they just not following them. They following society more than they following that male role model. So it's starting to get a little deeper than having a male role model in the house today. Back when we was growing up, that was real critical. But today, I think you need a little bit more than just that male role model in the house. You need multiple male role models around because these kids they're definitely swaying away.
So don't you think that fits into the narrative that's heavily pushed today, that men and fathers don't really matter?
Right.
And why maybe these kids don't have the certain level of respect for anybody else that may not be their father?
That's a good point. They pushing the narrative heavy. I don't need the man. Your dad ain't nothing. Your dad was only around for 1 day a week. Instead of pushing a positive light on these kids, the woman and society is pushing negative light about, especially black men. And what I see, most black men that's in the house are great fathers. They don't miss games. They're financially there. They're emotionally there. They there.
So what I got from these statistics, and we're talking about the negatives, right? But when I first read these, and these are in my book, I saw the positive. I saw why we matter. Exactly why we matter. Why we matter to our daughters, why we matter to our sons. Because if we're present enough, these statistics drop drastically. And so that is going to lead to my next question, which is, do you feel the previous generation of fathers failed your generation of fathers?
What you said earlier, everybody's different. Some people don't know how to be a dad. And I think that's more of that than what everybody not strong like you, T, you know what I'm saying? Some people will be like, and then they go lean on it as an excuse too. That's another thing. That's another thing a lot of people do. You lean on it for, my dad wasn't around, and cry about it for 20, 30 years. Now their kids and it's a repeated cycle. That's the dangerous part about it. So yeah, I do think some generations fail.
I would do things with my son and stuff with my dad. And I told him, especially when his health started failing, I said, son, you may have to do this for me. So otherwise I'm trying to pass on stuff. So there's positives and negatives in all of this stuff. You know, it's just, like you said, how you want to grab it.
Choices you make.
Right, the choice.
For a lot of men coming from my generation, there was a time period in history where women, African American, minority women, were largely on public assistance.
85% of the head of household is a woman, because most of the men who should be in the household, they cannot make a decent living. And of course, it is better to know that a child will be fed 12 months out of the year than 3 months, which during the summer when construction work, you can make a decent living.
Public assistance said that you could not have a man in the house. And so they forcibly took the man out of the house, effectively took the man out of the house, which made it oftentimes difficult because in a lot of those situations, the access to employment was not as abundant as it is right now. And so I think we need to understand that societal situations also play a part of why the man is not in the house.
Do you think a man's ability to be vulnerable and emotionally available impacts his ability to be a successful father?
Absolutely. Yes.
Anybody want to elaborate?
I mean, fathers, we try so hard to be everything right now. And I mean, I can see it all in the industry. We want to be everything. And it's just like, I want my kids to always look, and that's how we get our kids to follow us and put them on a path, give them something. And it takes a lot. It takes a lot.
I could show them vulnerability, but I don't really want to show them vulnerability. I want to build him so he can be a little vulnerable because I'm not. I'm just a strong cat when it comes to that type of stuff. It's hard when you used to, like you said, T, when you used to just want something. When you used to doing things one way, you should always try to change. But it's just hard. If you constantly tell kids they love them, they'll start feeling good. They'll start telling their girls or their friends, look, it's contagious.
Yeah.
And as black men, we need that. We need that. We get beat down enough. As being a Hispanic, you need that. Even the white, men need that. Just men. We need to hear that.
That praise?
Yes, that. Man, Clay, I love you, bro. You're doing good for yourself. I love you, Marco. Ain't nothing wrong with saying that.
You know, I think it takes time for you to be mentally aware that you need to be vulnerable, because after 40, some years, yeah, it definitely starts to take a toll. Because for me, it was hard for me to tell you people I had to go to therapy because I had hit that breaking point. And it's just like, on the outside looking in, my boys looking at me like, bro, you married, you got 2 beautiful kids, you got a beautiful wife. How you break it? It took me a while to realize there's nothing wrong with me. It's just I've never let out things that I need to let out because I'm not about to sit up here and tell my wife like, yo, I'm tired.
My daughter seen me cry multiple times. And what does she do? She come up, she rub my head because she knows that's what her mother does. And that helps me be more vulnerable, be more emotional towards my kids. My son, before he went back to Atlanta, he had never seen me cry. Never.
I lived in LA, Mexico City, Phoenix, Detroit, Dearborn, Michigan, Mississippi, and New York. I've moved from spot to spot. Being vulnerable to me meant I was going to be separated from the people I loved. I was brought into this country illegally, and then my dad decided to leave. And he would come back. It was like a revolving door. He'd come up every once in a while. And that typically meant we were moving. So we moved. And we went from spot to spot, never a community, never a spot, never a location. Being illegal, being in this country without proper documentation or status meant that if I let my guard down, if I became vulnerable, somebody was leaving. Either my mom was getting deported, I was getting deported, my brothers were getting deported, and there was no coming back. There was no way to come back into this country, or there was no way to be a family unit again, and I was the oldest. And just like the African American community, if you're the oldest, you are responsible for what's left behind. Mm-hmm. When he left, I have 4 brothers. When he left, I started working at the age of 12 in California full-time. Since that day, I've gone 2 months without a full-time job, right? So being vulnerable is a definition that each one of us looks at and defines what does it really mean? What's the price if I let this down? What's gonna happen? What's the impact? I broke. And to this day, I remain broken. I can tell you that 7 days ago, I called this crisis helpline in the driveway of my house. My son was inside. And I called them because I knew I was in a very dark spot at that moment. I'm feeling better today, feeling better this week. But I knew, hey, I have to figure this stuff out. I walked inside and he saw my face. And to me, it was okay. Because he took a moment to take it in. It wasn't shock. It wasn't fear. It was understanding that it's okay to be a man and cry. It's okay to be a man and fall apart. It's okay to ask somebody for help.
Everyone breaks down, right? Fatherhood is hard. You're not going to see it on TV because, again, what we watch is macho men or funny guys, right? We joke, and that should be it. That isn't fatherhood, So going back to the starting point, I didn't start saying I love you to my parents till about 5 years ago. They know it, because I've had the conversation because, I had to break down what am I doing? I have to tell my parents I love them. This time's almost up. My parents are going to be 70 still. People that look like us, 70 is it's a blessing, right? Time is coming. And for them to leave this earth without me saying it would kill me.
is there any valid reason a man should walk away from his responsibilities as a father? It's, this person made it so hard, or I tried, but, you know, and they grown, and I tried to have a relationship when they was grown. Well, kind of too late at that point, right? So I just wanted to know, like, am I tripping? Or is there a valid reason why a man should walk away from his responsibilities?
I don't think so. A couple things that I hear. So what Clayton asked is about the responsibility. I think there should be some sort of distinction between the walking away from the responsibilities versus removing yourself because you are harmed. Removing yourself from the situation should not, in my opinion, preclude you dealing with your responsibilities, answering to your responsibilities. A lot of us men think that child support is paying for us to have the ability to see our child. Child support is really support of raising the child. The court system is messed up, but we're fighting the wrong battle. Great way of saying it, Doc.
And there is a lack of understanding of actually how the system completely works, especially when you're a single father. You have different rights when you're married and have children than when you're a single man and have children. You have no rights, especially in Michigan. If you're a single man having kids, you have to establish those rights through the courts. That's joint legal and that's joint physical. There was a time in Michigan where you likely would have never really got the joint physical aspect of it without some form of hard proof that that woman was a unfit mother. Courts are changing, especially here in Michigan, where they want men and fathers to step up and take on that responsibility of going out and seeking their rights.
Dad understand more about being a man and being a boy because he actually went through it. Right. And different than a female.
My mom raised us. My dad was out of the house. They got divorced when I was 3. My mother was bound and determined that she was going to raise manly men. And so because she grew up with my grandfather in the house, she had a different view of what manhood was. My mom was real strong. She was a real strong woman. She knew where her limitations stopped at, and where those limitations stopped as far as raising us as men. That's where she implored my grandfather, some of the men from the church.
As far as being out in these streets and acting bad, I remember when I was growing up, I know like some of these dudes would tell you, hey, straighten up, you know. Nowadays, we don't think we got that, so we got to have that village around.
All of us come from woman, right?
Right.
So our first image of God is woman. So naturally, woman is the first teacher. So naturally, your mom can teach you a lot. It's just certain aspects of what she can give you, and that's the purpose of the village. Oh, you single, but Terrence had his uncle. You know what I mean? Like, where the uncles, where the elders that can step in and help maneuver this young person. Some of us have it, but some of us didn't. So I would say a mother can only do so much, but if she instills the right tools in him, it will make him a better man because of the man that he didn't have.
There's a lot of these young kids raising themselves. Right. And his parents in the household, it's just that those key indicators that they fail. So mom may be drugged out, pops may be in and out the house. Like, you don't know, because I've mentored boys that had both parents in the household stay suspended. And then you sit there and you talk to their teachers like, oh, he's bright as a light bulb, but he's got issues. And the issues are he's not held accountable at home. So when he gets to school, there's no accountability there because now it's just like, I don't have no authority, so I don't respect teachers. So it's talking to the youth because, like, needless to say, like, you know, I forgot who said it earlier, but I can assume that we're all good fathers. So it's just like in our minds, it's just like all of us, you're doing a good job, because sometimes you got to hear that. But it's just like your kids are going to be all right as long as you keep doing what you're doing. It's not you that needs essentially it's somebody around you before they get to fatherhood that needs to be pulled aside. Like, look, you keep doing this for so long, you're going to be dead or you're going to be running. What you're running from is going to dictate your choices.
You can just keep doing stuff like this, because if you can impact one person from this group and they can impact one person, it's gonna grow.
We need to start bringing our young Black and brown kids to these kinds of things that they're not, we wouldn't ordinarily expose them to. You know, stuff like this where they're around men has a bigger impact than just me going and telling you, be good, and walking away. Because there's nothing, I'm not modeling nothing, I'm just instructing you to be good. And then you go back to that same environment.
Were there any ever conversations centered around fatherhood and what actually to expect when you became a father, or did you learn that when you became a dad?
First became a father, I ain't had none of them conversations. It was just learning as I went.
My dad didn't really, like I said, he went to work. I watched him grind, and that's why I grind the way I do, because I watched him, so I learned by example.
I have no complaints about my parents, but I want to do better than them, right? Because that's what I should want for my child. But also, we also had to give our parents some slack. So when you got your child, brand new to you, brand new to them, we don't know what the hell we're doing, okay? Like, I think I'm a great father. And if you ask any of my friends, you ask my mom, my dad, my in-laws, they all say I'm a great father. I still don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm trying to do the best I can for my daughter. And, you know, if you were lucky enough to have, you know, a parent in the home, they're trying to do the best of their ability. So, you know, we had to cut some slack for, you know, parenthood. There are many books, they don't help. You don't know until you do it.
I want this to continue happening. I've been talking with Ms. Cage back there about doing a meetup once a month, where we just come as fathers and we talk and about whatever, so that we have a space for all of us to be able to just vent, have fun, and make sure that we can get through this life thing, because it's hard. It's hard as a dad, it's hard as a father, it's hard as a husband. The world don't really care about us like that, as you can see if you get on your social medias. But, you know, this brotherhood thing, I think we have to take more seriously and connect more with each other, because, you know, Yahya also pointed to this, you know, we die a lot earlier than our counterparts, and that's due to stress, internal built up things, because we have no outlets or we refuse to use those outlets. I want to change that. Specifically, I have a 21-year-old boy now. At some point, he will become a parent, and I need him to know that my generation and the older generations are gonna make sure he's gonna be all right if he can